Oh, I swear I parked here. Oh. Oh, crazy. What is up, internet world, and welcome to Accelerate. I'm Mike, he's Ian, and today we bring you the GMC Acadia where Justin Bieber got married. It's called Palmetto Bluff. So if you're not familiar with what the Acadia is, it's GMC's mid-size SUV, but it's no longer mid-size, it's grown a lot. How much, you ask? Well, it's 80% bigger behind the third row. It is 23% bigger behind the first row, and it has the largest legroom in its class.
Yo, what's good?
What's good, baby? You want to be in the video?
Later.
Yes, sir.
Go back.
Okay. Come on up. Okay, so there are three different trim levels. There are three different trim levels
In
in the new Acadia. Starting off with the starting off with the
elevation.
Next up is the AT4.
Next up is the AT4.
And finally, it's the Denali.
And finally, it's the Denali.
All right, good job, buddy. Good job. No worries. So to dive a little bit deeper into that, the Denali, well, everybody knows what it is. It's the pinnacle of luxury when you're thinking about the GMC brand. Then there's the AT4, which is newer. Maybe not everybody knows about it, but it's more off-road capable pieces that they stick on to their SUVs or trucks, which in this case is called the Acadia AT4. Now, it's important to note this, that no matter which Acadia you decide to purchase, you get Super Cruise as an option on all three trim levels, which wasn't the case before. Matter of fact, it wasn't the case on any GMC product ever, except for this new Acadia. So if you want to know what kind of engine there is underneath this hood, well, the answer is this. It is a 2.5-liter turbocharged four-banger that makes 328 horsepower and 326 pound-feet of torque. That has made it to an 8-speed transmission. Look at it in all its glory. Now, one of the things about having something so large with a 4-cylinder in it, even though it makes 328 horsepower and 326 pound-feet of torque, it's important to know the 0 to 60 time. However, our race box has no fix, which means we can't exactly tell you how fast this is. So I'm gonna feel how fast this is, and is it fast enough to sort of get from A to B, or at least past different vehicles when you're under duress. So there's 5 different drive modes you have here, so I'll go through the modes. You've got off-road, you've got snow and ice, which converts this to 4-wheel drive, tow haul, normal, and then sport. So I am in sport. There's no S for sport in there, but I will press my brake, press the gas, build a bit of boost, and go. A little laggy off the line, but smooth enough. I would say it's about 7 seconds or so. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah.
About 7 seconds or so. So fairly fast enough, if you'd like to call it that. The important bits here is the passing power. So I'm doing 40 miles an hour here. I will pin it and see how long it takes to get to 60 before I hit this corner, and 60. So not very long. Not the fastest thing in the world, but yeah, I feel like it's good enough. Now, who knows when I'm pulling a trailer that's 4,950 pounds and filled with humans, 7 of them. Then it's obviously going to feel a little bit slower, but it feels good. I think the whole key here is to try to feel out how comfortable this is, because this is the Denali. Tomorrow we'll be driving the AT4 in more of a sort of an off-roading course. So now I'm in the Denali, sort of smooth country roads, and it's, you know, soft. Something you'd expect when you buy something like this, which is why they make it. To the front of the baby Yukon Denali. Look at this. I know exactly what GMC is doing by making it look like this. The Yukon Denali is a home run for them, and it would make complete sense for them to copy the front of that. We got the same C-shaped headlights. Sweet. And then you have the grille. Big, bold, and massive with this Acadia Denali. If you're wondering where the front camera is, it's hiding right underneath the GMC logo. That is one of 7 standard cameras with 2 extra optional ones. Did you know the new Acadia has 7 standard cameras and 2 optional ones for a total of 9? Anyways, moving down from there, you have your front Parktronics, and then you have your big radar right there. Now this does have Super Cruise like I mentioned, and they've extended how many roads they can do, including a one-way this way and a one-way that way. You see, you don't have to be on the highway anymore to use Super Cruise. You can do it on small country roads. All right, here we are with the AT4. Now we lost a little clippy, so which is why I'm holding this in my hand. Now the Denali is designed for the mall, but the AT4 is designed for this, a little bit of ruggedness. So let's start off with the front of this AT4. For starters, you see there's no chrome. They've switched all the chrome for black. Thumbs up GMC. And like all AT4s, there's some red accents, including these front tow hooks, left and right, and then you have the AT4 badge with the 4 being in red. But there's more to this. Not just the height, which is 1.2 inches higher, but it's how they've pulled this bottom or approach angle up higher and still be able to shove the radar right there. And as you can see, there are 2 skid plates. This one is aluminum and the one behind it is steel. To the side of the Acadia, now you can get 18s, 20s, and 22s when it comes to the wheels. These guys are 22s with this Denali. You have painted fender flares. You have the Denali badge right there. You have more cameras on the mirror. Although I joke that this is the baby version of that is a Yukon in black. Looks sweet. Nonetheless, that one has little side steps that you can jump into the vehicle. This one does not. Now, speaking of what's going on down here, it's ground clearance. How much ground clearance do you get when you get an Acadia? 6 3/4 when you get the elevation, just under 7 1/4 when you get the Denali, and then you get 7 3/4 when you buy the AT4. Now on the side here, it's apparent there's no chrome like the Denali. I mean, well, there is a little bit on the badge here, but the roof rail and everything else is all black everything. It also is apparent that it does sit higher. This is where the 1.2 inches come to play compared to the regular one. It has 18-inch rims with Goodyear, Wrangler, Territory, all-terrain tires. And then you have this plastic cladding front and back with built-in lights. To the back, if you're wondering what does this tow, it tows 5,000 pounds, but let's start at the top here. You've got your translucent or clear brake light. Then you have another camera, a rear view mirror camera. And if you're wondering what this is to let everybody know that this is a baby Yukon with a baby rear wiper. Denali right there. Then you have the C-shaped taillights, just like the headlights in the front. And then, of course, letting everybody know it's an Acadia, all-wheel drive, not front-wheel drive. And of course, well, it is a GMC. That is for the towing, like I mentioned. And can you walk up to it and give it a kick, and will it open, is the question. And the answer is no, because they've changed it up. They've realized that not everybody kicks the same. Ronaldo and Messi do not kick the same way I do. So they've changed it to proximity. When I have the bags in my hand and I walk up to my Acadia, it opens up. And last but not least are these exhausts. They are Corvette-inspired exhausts. Now on the back, no major difference except for this AT4 badge. Now we just had a family walk by that owns the last generation Acadia, and they wanted to see how much bigger it is. And I showed them the trunk, and they're like, this is so much bigger. So have a look. It's a lot of space. Now we have a lot of B-roll from the last one we had a couple hours ago that had a black interior. This one has a lighter, whiter interior. And I actually like this. It's just fresh. It just makes the cabin feel larger. So if you're considering buying a black one or this light interior, I would buy the light interior, even though it's going to get totally destroyed if you have kids. Now, how about storage? Let's lift this up, and there's a ton of space in here for lots of wet boots or anything you want to, like, you know, not get the cabin dirty. And underneath here, you do have a full-size spare. There are 4 buttons here, and that is to fold down the second and third row. So let's hit these buttons down. That is the second row, and then this one right here is the third row. How about going up? Well, like most SUVs, the third ones are powered, or the third row is powered. and the second row is manual. In this specific case, they are captains, so you have to put them up manually. Now, the Acadia is not available in a hybrid, solely a gas model. And the only reason I bring this up is because on the back here, there are really no plugs to plug anything in. There's just one sole cigarette or 12-volt plug right there. And there's not also a lot of light back here. So there's only one solo light here, and there's a little bit of lighting in the middle, sort of above the third row. Nothing really for the trunk, just an observation. Front seat of the new GMC Acadia Denali. Okay, mixed materials is a big thing they've tried to focus on with this Acadia. The quality is where they've pumped it up. Take a look at this wood grain. You have Denali etched in right there for the passenger to see. A lot of cool new mix of materials. Take the seat, for example. Look at this. You've got perforations in this square type design, and then perforations all the way through, and then this baseball stitching design on the sides. You even have Denali in the headrest. This is the first GM product to have a portrait screen. This actually measures 15-inch diagonally. Then you have an 11-inch center display and an 8-inch heads-up display. This has Blue Cruise right in the steering wheel. On the door panel, you have two memory seat positions. You have automatic window on the driver's side only. The other three are powered, but they're not fully auto up and fully auto down. Now, both seats have lumbar support as well as heat and ventilation. Your steering wheel is heated as well. Now, if you didn't know, the Acadia is front-wheel drive as well as all-wheel drive. So you have a button here right on the dash that says AWD, you hit it, and then you're in all-wheel drive. Otherwise, you're just front-wheel drive as opposed to rear-wheel drive. Just something to keep in mind. Now, your steering wheel does have paddle shifters, but what's nice about it is they've integrated your volume controls and to switch channels or stations on satellite radio all with your paddle shifters. Yep. They're hiding right underneath where the paddle shifters are. Now, there's no traditional shifter. It's done on the stock here on the right-hand side, just on the opposite side or where your wipers would be. But take a look at the screen. You have all the data you need right on this driver's display. Like, everything is there, including object approaching from left side. And by object, they mean that guy who just came from a 5-hour game of tennis. Now back to the screen. On the left-hand side, you have your trip information, your two-wheel drive. As you can see, the front is more illuminated than the rear. Of course, how much you can do with the amount of fuel you have, your TAC, your speedometer, how many kilometers or miles you've completed, and then of course your satellite radio or whatever you're listening to. And then gear. But what's important for families is to know what kids have their seatbelt on and which ones don't. And this is all customizable, but by hitting this button, you have different displays. So this one shows you exactly where I am right now. I'm in Palmetto Bluffs, but it also does give you your miles per hour and again, two-wheel drive and how much I can do with the amount of fuel I have left. When I hit it again, I have a third screen that gives you sort of your adaptive cruise control. And then again, on the left-hand side, right-hand side, same information. So you can customize this screen, including this little compass up here. It says S for subscribe. Now back to the steering wheel for a second. The driving dynamics is what I really care about. Now when you hold the steering wheel, it's nice and thick. I do like strong, firm steering wheels, and this is exactly what this is. Just leave it in there. People are gonna be like, what? Now people forget, but this is a GM, and GM has OnStar. We sort of forget about that sometimes. So as you can see, you have OnStar, you hit this button, of course, then you get a concierge. Above that, you have a button here for your sunshade, for your panoramic sunroof, and to the right of it, this is where you can tilt the sunroof itself and then slide the sunroof. But this is key. Remember we talked about the 7 standard cameras? The 2 optional ones, one is this guy right here, your rear view mirror camera, because when you have people in the back seat, like kids that are tall nowadays, because kids are not short anymore, all these kids that are tall, they'll sort of block your view. So having that is important. Now down from these buttons, you have on the center console, you have this open pore wood finish. And when you slide this panel back, that is where your wireless charger is. And this is where you put your phone, it charges it up. You also have a USB-C and a USB and a spot to put your key. And then you push this back, it slides over, and boom, there you have it. You have 2 big cup holders. This is nothing new. This just looks like something from GM already. Nothing new here. How about underneath? Well, I put my hand up there. I do have something for my coins. And then of course, lots of space to put stuff. Is there any power or charging outlets in there? The answer is no, simply just a light. Now, most GMC trucks are sold in black, or at least that's what I see on the road. And when considering a black vehicle, of course it gets hot inside the cabin, so big vents are important. So you have 4 of them in this Acadia, one on the left next to the steering wheel, and then these 2 center big ones, and of course one on the passenger side. But it's keeping me cool, and that's important to note when considering a black one in a hot climate. So let's jump into this 15-inch screen that is all new from a portrait standpoint. This is the widget screen. You can adjust or customize different content. As you can see, the big screen can be adjusted in maps, audio, trailering. Then on the bottom, you can adjust it by having more things like trip information and tire pressure. And then when you hit this home button on the top left-hand corner, you get all the Google products because this is a Google-based system, including Android Auto. And yes, you do get Apple CarPlay. It's not illuminated because we haven't connected our phones. When you hit the camera button is where you get your extra camera, which is the trailer camera right here, as you can see. When I close this off, you have other things like climate. I wouldn't jump to that because you have all your climate buttons down here, all hard buttons, which I appreciate they've put or kept. Then you have Wi-Fi hotspot, audio, my GMC, pretty straightforward stuff, including Waze and Spotify, thumbs up. Then you have this button and it takes to one big gigantic map that is Google based. And then the fourth and last button is that is when you connect your phone and you have all your phone information. Down from there you have this button, and this is a quick controls and safety where you have your heads-up display, dome lights, power windows, traction control, your front fogs, and more controls by hitting that button, doors and windows. So if you're wondering what this does, when I hit doors and windows, this is what you get to see. You get to see if you want to lock out your windows, the power height. You can customize it or you can have it maximum open. So you have some pretty deep features in this 15-inch display. And then you have this button, which is surprising that it's right down here. This is for your lane assist. I'm surprised they put it here and just not on the steering wheel. I find that odd, nonetheless. Now, we saw this light button in the Colorado as well. You can't adjust your lights, or for us, have the daylight running lights on so we can film it, because we use that feature quite a bit. You have to go into the screen to do that. So I have to hit this, and then I have to hit that button, and then it activates. Or in this specific case, I'll just leave it on auto. I just find this really odd. I just don't know why they have the lane keep right in the screen. Anyways, the audio is done here. And here's what's cool about it. When I turn this up, not just this, obviously gets higher, you actually have these little tiny red dots that happen, or red lines that happen behind it. And here's a funny thing, you have blank buttons. Check this out, blank buttons on a digital screen. That's funny. Anyways, on the bottom here is you have your HVAC controls that stay standard on here. They don't change no matter what screen you have up here or what display you have up here. When you hit the heated seats button, that's where you can pick your ventilated seats. You have 3 increments of ventilated and 3 increments of heated. Then over here you have your fan speed. When I hit it, you can adjust it. Can you adjust it by your fingers? No, you have to hit these buttons up or down to adjust your fan speed. But it's nice and big, nice and easy, very, very clean to use. And then of course you have your hard buttons down here that you can do. You can hit up. Instead of hitting this button, you can just hit these buttons up or down, which I assume 99% of people will use. So there's 2 other small things that you may or may not notice. On the side of this 15-inch screen, there is a power button that completely shuts the display off. And then the other thing is underneath this center console, there's sort of a floating console, I guess you could call it, where you have a cigarette or 12-volt plug. Now on the interior of the AT4, it only comes with one choice. This is it. On the vinyl or material that you have, it actually has a green hue in it. Yeah, it doesn't appear that way when you look at it, but when you have the light shining on it, you'll definitely see there's green in it. Take a look at these seats. There's a mix of material here. You have this, maybe I would call it gold or bronze piping. You've got the perforations in the center, a little bit of actual cloth with some grip on it, and then vinyl on the outside. But take a look up here. You have this gold or bronze stitching, red in the middle, and then you have the AT4 on the headrest. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward, very similar to the Denali, with the exception of having terrain mode. Oh, and you have this red outline on these toggle switches on the bottom for your HVAC controls. The reason people buy Acadias is this, the second and the third row. When you have a baby seat in the back, do you have to take the baby seat out to get in the third row or jump across right in the center? The answer is no. There's simply a button. When I hit this button, this is what it does. I do not have to remove the baby seat. The seat just jolts upward and forward so I can get into the third row. Now obviously with the baby seat there, it's not gonna go as far forward, but you get the drift. Now when I put this back here, what about just manually doing it without a baby seat? Well, there is a handle here. and there we go, it folds flat. So just different things for you guys to know on an Acadia, the new one especially. Now these seats do recline completely back, as you can see, so I can put it like this, or I can put it all the way back and just like chill out. The door panel does not have sunshades, but I do have a powered window, thumbs up, and I do have a decent amount of storage there to fit one bottle. And if I have a second bottle or a second cup, well, I can fit it right here. How about entertainment? I have 2 USB-Cs there and 1 full-out plug. Yep, not a cigarette, a full-out plug, along with HVAC controls and heated seats. 3 increments on this side and 3 increments on that side. How about visibility or claustrophobia when I'm sitting in the back? Well, I have this panoramic sunroof that comes right to the end here, so when I'm sitting here, I feel like I get all the light. But then what about the third row? So let's jump into the back and see how it is. So I will jump out of this right now. Jump out. I push this button. Come on, push this button. There we go. You move forward, and I simply just pull this up. Now I was showing you guys how this sort of works. So let's pull this up here. How do I do that? Because it is like closed, so there must be a button somewhere, right? There must be a button, right? And the answer is no, there's no button. I have to actually open up this trunk and pull this up because these are powered. There's no buttons here for me to pull this up. Well, I assume nobody actually has this down and then wants to get in the third row. They'd already have this up is what my assumption is. So Ian just did something interesting. So he had this seat and he pressed this button. So he pulled this, it folded flat, and then he hit this button over here. And what this button does is it actually just moves this seat forward. So look, boom, so I can get in easier. I didn't even notice it had that, but he hit it and he found it. So thanks, Ian. So let's jump into the third row here and see how much room we got. Well, a good amount of room. Look how much headroom I have. Man, I'm 5'9" and there's a ton of room. But there's a great piece here. I have vents right here staring at me right in the face. That gives me cool air. Thumbs up, GM. I have a cup holder here, and I have another one here that's larger. This is more for snacks, but you could theoretically have 2 different bottles, like a bottle here and a cup here. And then I have a USB-C here and a USB-C there. Again, the only interesting part is that when I have these seats down, because they are powered, I cannot pull them back up if they are down when I'm in that position. I have to go to the trunk, I have to press the buttons to have them up, and then I can use these seats. So just something to keep aware of when you own one. These seats always have to be up in case you want to use them. Because if you put them down from the back, you have to go to the back to put them back up again. It sounds a little bit whiny because this is a 4-cylinder, and then there's the brakes. The brakes feel good. I find when you have something so big, the brakes always feel a little bit like spongy, but Ian, hold on.
Oh, not all the camera gear.
Yep, feels good, feels good. I mean, it does its job. I don't think it's not gonna overwhelm you with performance, but with this one, again, it's not super performance oriented. I would say this specific one is designed to be luxurious, and it gives me that luxury feel. This is definitely softer and more luxurious than the CX-90 was, I think, at least, from a rebound suspension compression perspective, right? It feels more, I'd probably want to be in this on a, 10 or 12 hour like ride than I would in the Mazda. I feel like the Mazda would probably be better on the city or maybe shorter bursts. This is just a bit more comfortable. Pretty much what we expect out of domestic, big honking SUVs. You don't really think about the Acadia. I think if you asked, 50 people and did a survey and said, hey, would you buy a Grand Jeep Cherokee or an Acadia? I think most people would probably say the Grand Jeep Cherokee just because the name rings a bell more to them than the Acadia does. But maybe in the coming years that will change because this is a really good product. Smooth shifts. Sorry, I'm looking at Ian, but he's not mic'd up. He's like, maybe I should be mic'd up. Your opinion's not important. Now, when we do these trips, they're very, very short. So we have about 3 hours to film something like this when we arrive, and then tomorrow we're gonna do the AT4 like we talked about. So this is really just to feel out the quality and the luxuriousness of the Denali. So now the AT4. About having a versatile vehicle. You don't have to have a truck specifically for off-roading. Not that this is a huge off-roader, but in a terrain like this, it's perfect. It does its job. It's got different suspension than the regular Denali or the Elevation. This has larger articulation on the actual shock absorber to take a bit more of a beating. And it's still very comfortable. Like, we're blasting through these dirt roads, and this specific one is a bit muddy. You've got those little shutters in the road, and it doesn't shake the whole dash like most vehicles do. It's sort of holding its own. Very stable. Like the steering, I mean, obviously it feels a little bit light, but yeah, I can just kind of throw this thing in the corner here and full throttle. Oh, and a little bit of dust there, perfect. So you can just throw this thing, I wouldn't say full out rally race it, but it feels really solid, man. I don't feel like top heavy at all or out of control, you know? It feels solid.
The Acadia Denali was one of our first press cars. Was it our first press car?
One of the first ones, yeah.
I think it might have been the first one. Yep.
So we're gonna wrap it up here at Palmetto Bluff. This is in South Carolina. We actually flew into Savannah, and we're like, Savannah, Georgia? But it's super close to this place, which is 20,000 acres. It is wild. It is like an enclosed community. They have their own restaurants, their own post office. Tennis courts, basketball courts. Very, very exclusive community. Apparently, they've sold over $3 billion in real estate in this area, and there's 4,000 homes. Anyways, this is a car channel, but it's so cool, this area. And
also, Justin Bieber got married here.
Yep, and there is no crime. Zero. There's no crime whatsoever.
Today.
Like, the only crime that's happening is us squealing our tires. Nothing. Anyways, thanks for watching. We appreciate the support. If you don't already subscribe, please go ahead and do so, only because it helps us to get access to vehicles. So thanks again. As always, from Mike and Ian, we'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.